So we're going to talk about, we're not going to call this a Star Wars story time.
Okay.
It's not exactly, it's just kind of a discussion a little bit. But if you're here later on, like we're filming this live, but if you're here, make sure you like this video and put a comment about what you think. But this whole thing is about, I had a little bit of a meditation because I read a book by Kirsten White called Star Wars Padawan a couple of days ago, and got me thinking about my favorite relationship in all of Star Wars almost, which is Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan's relationship, which is very contentious. And this was all set up by, there are a couple of throwaway lines from episode 1 where Obi-Wan's like, why are you such a dick? Or like,
Qui-Gon's like, don't talk back to me, boy.
Or he's like, don't fucking go against the council again. Or
Qui-Gon's like, fuck the council.
Yeah. Or like in the Jedi, in the council meeting where, Qui-Gon's like, I'm taking Anakin as my Padawan, and they're like,
you're like, don't take Anakin as your Padawan. I'm gonna take him as my Padawan.
Well, they're like, you can't do that. You got Obi-Wan. He's like, I don't fucking want Obi-Wan. He can take the trials. And like Obi-Wan like side eyes him, and is like, I mean, I am ready for the trials, but fuck you, dude. Like, what the fuck? So like we knew in episode 1 that the relationship is weird.
Yeah,
like it's a little contentious. It's not very Jedi at times. It's like they don't get along necessarily all the time.
I mean, they have such different temperaments, right?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
Is this giant fucking Boy Scout by the book, do everything right? And Qui-Gon is like, do what's good for people, not necessarily what the council says. Yes.
Now, that is on its face true, right? And that's where it ends up in both Legends and canon, but we're going to talk a little bit about both, right? Okay. Because in addition to this book by Kirsten White, and also in addition to Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, both of which are current canon books that are fantastic, there was a Legends series I was obsessed with as a kid called Jedi Apprentice. The first one was written by Dave Wolverton, and the rest of the other 17 of them were written by Jude Watson. Okay. And they were in our Scholastic book order forms.
Scholastic book fairs were the fucking best.
And every time there was a new one of those, I would pay the $2 for it, and then I couldn't wait until the next week to get it. And I would just... what's funny is I read one of these recently, like within the last year, and I can read one in like 3 hours. Yeah. Like, cause they're not like picture books
written for kids, right?
But the stories are fantastic.
Sure.
Even now reading them as an adult, the stories are fantastic. And you can tell because the Star Wars Padawan kind of hijacked a plot from one of them. Right. So we're going to take a few minutes to talk about Legends and then canon, right? Okay. So in Legends, this book series begins with a book called The Rising Force, but we're also going to be touching on The Dark Arrival as well, which is like a couple books after that. But Obi-Wan starts out as a youngling who is almost aged out of the Jedi Order, right? So when you're a youngling, at least in Legends, you have until you're 14 to get chosen by a master. Otherwise, they send you to go be a farmer or something with like the agricultural corp or whatever. And Obi-Wan really wants to be a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
And he's stressing the fuck out because he's like, my birthday is in like 2 days, and
they're gonna fucking send me to be a farmer.
I don't want to be a farmer. Yeah. So something happens where a rival youngling. He gets into a sparring match with him, and the youngling made it look like he beat him up. And so the council's like, well, I know your birthday's in a couple of days, but you're gonna go be a farmer. You fucking beat that kid up, and you wouldn't be a good Jedi. And Obi-Wan's like, that fucking sucks. I don't enjoy that. And so they find out later that a surveillance droid saw the fight, and so Yoda was like, okay, so we know you're supposed to go and do this thing. We're going to let you compete in a lightsaber tournament. And Qui-Gon Jinn will be there.
Okay.
And Qui-Gon Jinn has not had an apprentice in quite a while. Wink. Right? And so Obi-Wan's like, holy shit. Like, here's my chance,
this is
man.
My chance.
Yeah.
I can be a Jedi Knight.
Yeah. So he gets into the fucking tournament. It's the same kid he beat the shit out of earlier, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah. No, he did it.
Oh.
There's no allegedly. He did it. It's just that they had agreed to spar, right? So they get to fighting. Obi-Wan gets aggravated with him and kind of goes apeshit on him and beats him.
Okay.
Right. And in the locker room, Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon goes to talk to him after he's dressed, I hope. And Obi-Wan's like, I would be fucking honored to be your Padawan. And he's like, never gonna fucking happen. And turns around and walks away.
Damn.
And he's like,
move,
yeah, he's like, why? And he's like, I saw you fighting. I cannot have another Padawan that falls to the dark side. And everyone's like, another what? And it turns out that Qui-Gon had an apprentice called Xanatos.
Okay.
Who turned to the dark side. He was a fucking rich kid from Telos.
Yeah, like you do.
Yeah. And he turned to the dark side and it wrecked Qui-Gon. It just fucking wrecked him, right? So Qui-Gon doesn't take him as an apprentice. And so they ship him off to be a farmer.
Well, shit.
And he starts his assignment.
Yeah.
And turns out by some serendipitous thing that Qui-Gon is on the same planet on his own mission. And it turns out that his former Padawan Xanatos was behind this bombing thing.
Okay.
And like Obi-Wan can't stay out of it. He's like the one that figures it all out and brings it to Qui-Gon. And like he almost sacrifices his life for Qui-Gon. He puts himself in they're in a situation and there's a solution where Obi-Wan's like, I can do this thing. I will die, but you can catch him. Like only one of us needs to die. And Qui-Gon's like, shit, dude, that's fucking hardcore. Yeah. They end up both getting out. And then Qui-Gon's like, all right, I'll take you as an apprentice. And then their relation starts, or not their relation, sorry, their relationship, their master apprentice, strictly platonic relationship starts, right? Because you know that there are fanfics out there, I'm sure. Anyway,
absolutely.
So they go on a bunch of missions together, and they find an understanding, right? And Obi-Wan really looks up to him, but I mean, Qui-Gon's he's kind of hard to get along with. Yeah, it's like he's very aloof and very closed off and shit. And they go to this planet where the entire planet is just ravaged by a civil war.
Okay. And
all the adults are fighting, but the children of both sides get together to form their own faction because they're tired of the adults fucking everything up. Yeah. Right? They're going there because the former Jedi, the Jedi archivist before Jocasta Nu, whose name is Tal.
Jocasta Old.
Yeah, her predecessor.
Yeah,
was there on a mission and doesn't call home when she's supposed to. And so they're like, shit, we'll send Qui-Gon out there, not knowing, by the way, that Qui-Gon's madly in love with her.
Of course, yes.
And so they go out there. Obi-Wan hangs out with these kids, and they really speak, like, he's like, these kids are all my age, like I can do some really good here. And they convince Obi-Wan to use the ship they came in on like a raid against a military target. And in the meantime, Qui-Gon finds Tal, puts her on the ship. Obi-Wan sneaks up, doesn't realize Qui-Gon's there to go steal the ship. Qui-Gon steps on the ramp and was like, the fuck are you doing, boy? And he's like, I got to take the ship. I got to help the kids out. And he's like, that's not happening. We're going home. I've got Tal. Like, our mission here is done. Yeah. And Obi-Wan just lets his hand drop to his lightsaber hilt, and Qui-Gon fucking draws on him immediately. And he's like,
don't try it.
Let me rephrase. I will fucking kill you. And Obi-Wan is like, here's my fucking lightsaber. I'm done. Quits the Jedi entirely. Now, as you can imagine, the kids win. They set up their own government, and it's a fucking wreck.
Of course, because fucking teenagers should not be running the government.
Yes, and Obi-Wan, the outsider, is almost immediately ostracized, right? And so he like calls home and he's like, guys, I'm sorry. Can you come get me?
Dad, the party's getting really weird. Can you pick me up?
And it takes another 2 books for Qui-Gon to take him back. In fact, it takes a terrorist attack against the Jedi Temple and Obi-Wan risking his life to save a bunch of younglings, and wisdom from his friend Tal, who the Japanese fill the thing with gold to make it the pottery thing that was in Rise of Skywalker. Happened way before, which she gives him this, you have this broken vessel, you can use gold to fill the gaps, and you end with something more beautiful than you began, like your relationship with Obi-Wan. Wink. And so Qui-Gon's like, God damn it, woman. Okay, fine. And so and so Tal ends up dying, by the way. Just side note, Tal ends up dying on a mission, and they go to investigate it. They find Tal and Qui-Gon had pledged themselves to each other, but not to fuck, I don't think.
Okay.
It's like a Jedi marriage.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's like a priest and a nun getting married. It just doesn't make sense, but they pledge themselves to each other.
Sure, yeah.
And she dies, and he finds out that she's murdered, and Qui-Gon goes apeshit to the point where he disappears, and Obi-Wan's really worried about him going to the dark side. And so he calls Mace Windu, and he's like, guys, Qui-Gon is dangerous, and I don't know where he is, and I think he might kill someone. And it takes Mace Windu showing up to be like, if you don't calm the fuck down, I'm going to whoop your ass. And the whole thing ends up being fine, right?
Yeah.
So it's this whole interesting relationship.
Yeah.
So in canon, you learn the two main sources that you can learn about this relationship are like Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice, and then Kirsten White's Star Wars Padawan. Where Star Wars Padawan, Obi-Wan is kind of a different kid. He's a ball of nerves. He's much more like what you described him being, like the by the book fucking
Boy Scout.
Yeah. But he has a really plain anxiety problem too. And he's already Qui-Gon's Padawan. Like there was no issue where he where he wasn't chosen or anything. And but he doesn't feel like he fits in with the Jedi. Like his friends from when he was younglings, everyone's kind of grown apart because everyone has their own masters and they're doing their own thing. And everyone loves their masters because they all have like the one kid that likes fucking histories with the master that likes history. Yeah. And the one kid that likes to study animals and fuck sheep or whatever is with the Jedi that likes to study animals and fuck sheep. And he is with Qui-Gon fucking Jinn, who every time he's like, teach me something new, teach me how to fight with a lightsaber, he's like, let's meditate. And everyone's like, no,
I hate meditating.
Because he wants to be the best Jedi, right? He's like, I got to be the best at everything. And so he's like doubting his relationship with, because Qui-Gon's cold and aloof and doesn't seem to like him very much. And the entire time Qui-Gon's like, I'm a shitty teacher. I can't imagine that Obi-Wan likes me. I'm such a fucking failure. So they have this thing where they both don't think they're good enough for each other, right? And Obi-Wan finds a mystery at the temple. He finds someone carved their name into like where the archives used to be.
Okay, that's weird.
And so he goes and searches and finds out that they were a Jedi wayfinder, which is kind of a Jedi who's like, I'm going to go do my own thing and you guys aren't my boss anymore, but I'm still a Jedi. Like I won't be a douchebag, but I'm going to go do my own thing. And so
thanks for the lightsaber. Bye.
Yeah. And so he does some research and finds a record from this long dead Jedi wayfinder or wayseeker from the old Republic, like the High Republic era. Yeah. It's like, hey, this fucking planet's kind of weird. You guys should check it out. I'm going to go do the next thing I'm supposed to do. And so Obi-Wan gets to talk to Qui-Gon. He's like, I think I found something, because they'd never been on a mission before. Yeah. Like he just makes him meditate. And he's like, I'm going fucking nuts. I found this thing and like, it's really weird. And oh, it's from a wayseeker. And Qui-Gon's like, oh, wayseeker? Because I would like to be that, but they won't let me. And he's like, well, let's fucking go. And at some point in here, Count Dooku has already walked away from the Jedi. Yeah. But he still shows up to hang out sometimes. Yeah. Like he meets with the council on important matters. And he sees Obi-Wan runs into Count Dooku at the Jedi Temple. And so he goes to get ready for his mission. Like he's so excited. And he gets on the ship and Qui-Gon doesn't show up. And so Obi-Wan, who is the textbook definition of anxiety disorder, is like, Qui-Gon left the Jedi and joined Count Dooku. I'm going on my own. Yep. And just leaves without anybody knowing. And he meets this band of kids on this planet who have been the planet is like living. It's like a living planet, and it's like they're able to get powers kind of like the Force, but it's not really the Force. And he has this identity crisis where he's like, maybe I'm supposed to be here with these kids, and I'm not supposed to be a Jedi. And through helping them in resolving the mystery, which is, it's a whole thing.
At least these fucking kids don't make me meditate every day.
Right. But he kind of realizes every time something happens, he's got this Qui-Gon voice in his head telling him what to do based on like wisdom that he's given him. And he's like, shit, maybe he is a good teacher. Like maybe I am supposed to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
And he ends up going back to him. And it's like, it turns out like Qui-Gon was just like late from breakfast or something. Or it was like something really mundane. Yeah. And like Obi-Wan has this like anxiety meltdown. It's like, my master's gone. I have to leave the Jedi. And it's this whole thing. But it's just one of those things where like, if you want to read a really interesting, complicated relationship in Star Wars, go and read all the shit you can where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are doing the master and apprentice thing, where Obi-Wan's just a teenager. And because it's especially the canon stuff where like it's one of those things where like opposites attract and they're sure that each other hates the other one. But it ends up being this really heartfelt, intense relationship that by the end of it, it makes sense why when Qui-Gon said, make sure you train Anakin, Obi-Wan was like, I will fucking die before I don't do this. There's a whole reason for that, because they have this crazy, contentious, weirdly effective relationship that's kind of awesome. So go read about it.